Hello and welcome to User-Friendly AV. I'm your host, Kate Adkins. I am UX Engineering Manager for Root Integrated Systems. If you caught my last video, I mentioned I was just about ready to head off to Infocomm, and well, I just got back. So as promised, today I'm going to share with you some of the UX and UI trends that I saw while I was at the show. Now, some of these might be old trends, they might be new trends, might be good, it might be not so good. I'll let you decide that part for yourself, but I did definitely see some common themes on the floor. So let's get down to it. Trend number one, touch interfaces are back in demand. Past couple of years, we saw a lot of contactless and BYOD control solutions due to the pandemic. While I did see a couple of those around, it really wasn't apparent at all on the floor. They were mostly absent, but touchscreens are everywhere. So everybody's got some sort of touch interface out there, from the traditional touch panels that we all know and love, like those behind me here on my shelf, to scheduling panels, to interactive whiteboards. Touch was just everywhere. It didn't really see anything involving voice control, not a whole lot of QR codes, so it doesn't seem like that's really caught on in the commercial space. So maybe that's why. But yeah, definitely touchscreens everywhere. Trend number two, the focus is on collaboration. I mentioned those interactive whiteboards a minute ago, and let me tell you, they were everywhere. Just about half the booths that I saw had some sort of interactive whiteboard in it. This here is just a very small sampling of all of the different boards that I saw out there. Some of these were some hardware solutions. There were also a lot of just software solutions that were kind of geared towards enhancing that small group collaboration through content sharing and annotation in a way that it makes in-person meetings more interactive and engaging. And I think that was really the theme, was how do we take just a standard content sharing, we're going to share some notes back and forth and make it interactive and engaging. Definitely saw a lot of that going on. I know these sorts of things have been around for years, but it did feel like they were really coming out strong to kind of answer that question of how do we draw people back into the office, right? You know, everybody's talking about that these days. Return to office is a big topic. How do we get people to come back in? And this is the answer that I was seeing out there, was really focusing on that collaboration among small groups. This leads me into trend number three. A large portion of the workforce is still hybrid or fully remote, so Teams and Zoom were the focus of most of the systems I saw on display. Those interactive whiteboards, nearly all of them were capable of launching Teams or Zoom natively from within their interface, or they were designed in such a way that they were meant to be shared through the conferencing platform. And all over the show, you could find this, and you could find those large 21:9 displays showcasing Microsoft's front row feature for Teams rooms. You know, these are systems that are being designed with these software platforms at their very core. So what does that mean for us? Honestly, everything else becomes an extension of Teams or Zoom. This means that the UIs are usually consistent across all your system types, from your desk to your lecture hall to your boardroom. And at the same time, they're also dynamic. So these are updating and changing throughout the life cycle, and it could be pretty rapid changes. This is a little bit different mindset than what we've had in the AV industry in the past, and it's really been coming to the forefront in the past few years. Definitely saw it on display at Infocomm, and it's really a trend that we should be paying careful attention to, because we in the AV industry really don't define the user experience anymore. We're just enhancing it. So definitely something to be paying attention to. The next trend on my list shows just how much AV has changed in the past 3 to 5 years. Trend number 4 is the simplification and commoditization of AV systems. Everybody and their brother had a USB soundbar or video bar on display at the show. Sennheiser even had this massive version of their soundbar, which I thought was a pretty neat move on by their booth design team. But it just goes to show exactly where the focus of the industry has gone. These are clearly products that are meant to be installed and operated by anyone with little training required. All the user needs to know to use these systems these days is just how to plug in a USB cable and join a Teams meeting, join a Zoom meeting. And to be honest, most of the products that I saw, especially in the UC pavilion, are the kinds of things that make themselves attractive to IT managers and not necessarily integrators. And again, I think this is a really important trend for us as integrators to recognize, because it's going to impact our businesses if we don't adapt to it, right? This has been a big thing over the past few years. This isn't really new, but it's something that I think we all need to be keeping our eyes on, because it's definitely changing the way the user experience works in our rooms. This also leads me to my final trend for Infocomm 23, and that is the rise of AI and automation. There's little surprise that the term AI is to be found just about everywhere these days. And while much of that is just marketing hype for clever automation, there's still quite a bit of it around if you know where to look. Just about every one of those in the sea of sound bars on the show floor had some sort of auto framing feature to them. There were PTZ cameras that were using some limited AI to detect a presenter and track their movement. There's DSPs that are tuning themselves, filtering out unwanted noise, and camera feeds being sliced up into individual streams so that each participant has their own window in the conference call. Some of these products actually claim to know when people are looking away from the camera as well, and they'll switch to a camera with a better shot. All of these systems, they're trying to create like a broadcast quality experience, right, with no reliance on human operators. Whether that will be successful or not remains to be seen. But I do have to say I saw a couple of very impressive demos, so I think there might be a few out there who are on the right track there. I could probably go on and on about AI and automation all day, but that's not really the point of this episode. I just wanted this to be a quick little review of some of the things that I saw at Infocomm. If you are interested in learning some more about automation and making the whole room the UI and a little bit of that AI conversation, make sure you check out my next episode because I got to chat with a friend of mine, Emily Eicher from QSys. And we talked about that very thing, and it was just a really fun conversation. So please make sure you check that out. You don't want to miss it. And honestly, I just want to say thank you to everybody that I got to meet at Infocomm. I had the pleasure of talking to several different people and just hearing people respond to this channel a little bit and give me some feedback that was just amazing. I started this channel because I wanted to try and give back something of value to this industry that I just love so much. So it was really awesome to hear that, and just the response from that has just been amazing. So thank you so much for that. I'm moving on to my recommendation point of this episode because I want it to be quick. It's going to be a little bit different than past episodes. So I've been up to this point recommending like a book or a website, something like that. I promise I'll have more of those in the future, but it seemed only fitting that for this particular episode, I recommend attending some kind of trade show. So obviously Infocomm is one of the big ones that's out there, but there's so many others. There's CEDIA, there's UCX, there's CES, and like a ton more. There's just honestly, there's so much that you can learn just by looking at the trends that are on the show floor. Also by attending the classes. I attended several of the classes and I felt like I got a lot out of that. And really just listening to the people around you. So I said I went to a couple of those education sessions and I learned just as much by listening to the questions that other people in the audience were asking as I did from the presenters themselves. And it was just such a valuable experience. You get to hear things from people with very different perspectives and different experiences. And, it was just great to kind of get out of that bubble because I think we do very easily fall into our own little bubbles and we don't really realize that there's so many other ways to approach problems out there. And you don't really get out of that bubble until you surround yourself with voices that are very different for a few days. So I think it's very important and it's very helpful for programmers especially to get out to these kinds of trade shows and events to kind of figure out what's going on in the industry, what other ways we can do things, how else we might solve problems, and not get stuck in those ruts. And I think even if you're an introvert like me, or maybe especially if you're an introvert like me, this is just a really great place to kind of get that that feedback and that conversation going, right? So you're gonna be around people who are have much in common with you, but at the same time, they can give you something a little different. There's a lot of people at these shows who are actually on the front lines and dealing with users on a daily basis, and they will gladly tell you their stories if you give them a chance. And I think we really need that kind of thing as programmers, as people who are designing user experiences. We need to get that feedback, and we don't always get it from our customers. Sometimes it's really hard to get in there. So when you can get it, secondhand information like that, it's still really valuable. And it's definitely something that everybody should try and get, at least at some point in their career. You should try and get that experience. And, we just really need to get more programmers there, like I said. In fact, rumor has it the hosts of the Ask the Programmer podcasts are working on putting together something especially for programmers at Infocomm next year. So definitely be on the lookout for that. If you haven't heard of that podcast yet, Ask the Programmer. It's with hosts Steve Greenblatt and James King. It's one of my favorites. It's super helpful for programmers in general. And I'm not just saying that because they've had me on a couple of times, but it is a really good resource. And they're great guys. I got to meet them at Infocomm. So definitely go check out their podcast. And, like I said, it's a great resource. And there's a bonus resource recommendation for today. With that said, I'm going to say farewell for now. Please drop a comment here. Let me know what you think. If you like what I'm doing, please make sure you subscribe, and then you'll get notified whenever I get around to putting new episodes up. Hopefully that'll be once a month. That's kind of my goal. So thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a good one.